Hey nerdy knitter, are you a beginner knitter who's ready to tackle your first seamed sweater? You want to knit a sweater in pieces and then sew it up? I've got some great recommendations for you today. We're going to look at 10 sweater patterns that are perfect for beginners. 5 of them are drop shoulder sweaters. 5 of them are raglan sleeve sweaters. All of them are knit in pieces and sewn together. Before we dive into those patterns, let me just say, hey, I'm Tanya here at Nerdy Knitting. I'm a certified knitting instructor and a knitwear designer, and my goal is to help you become a more confident, adventurous knitter. And believe me, you'll feel confident after you've knit your first sweater. So let's start with drop shoulder sweaters. These are probably the easiest to knit in pieces and then seam together because everything is just a straight line. The body is basically 2 rectangles, and then you have the sleeves, which of course are tapered. And then you just seam the back and the front together along the shoulders, and then you lay everything flat and then add those sleeves, and it's just a straight line, and then you can just seam up the sides. It's really a simple process, and it's a great way to practice learning how to sew up your knitted pieces. My first recommendation is My First Sweater, designed by Marley Bird for Red Heart. This is a great simple sweater. It even includes a knit along that was done in the past, but the videos are still there, so you could go watch them and learn some tips and techniques for knitting your first sweater. Now, it's a very simple boat neck shape, so it's really just 2 large rectangles, simple stitch patterns, just some basic rib, and the body's worked in stockinette. So you're knitting a row and then purling a row and continuing that pattern. The boat neck shaping is very simple with that rib neckline. And then when your pieces are done, you seam it up. It's really a great beginner pattern. Now, if you're looking for something that has a more bulky modern vibe, the simple knit sweater from Sewrella is a great choice. Now, this one uses bulky yarn, so it's going to be quick to knit, and it has that more modern oversized feel. It's worked with a basic rib at the hem, and then the body is worked in garter stitch. So you're knitting every row. Really, really simple. And there is a little bit of simple shoulder shaping with this one as well. Now, if you want to add a bit of color, then the Easton striped pullover is a great way to do that. This one is also worked in bulky yarn, but it includes some simple stripes for a bit of interest. Front and back are worked separately, and there is some shaping for the shoulders and neckline. Then they're seamed together and stitches are picked up for the sleeves, and those are worked flat. When the sleeves are done, you seam up the sides and sleeves together. But if you want to add some color and some interest with stripes, this is a great way to do that. Now, these last 2 are probably a step up from that super beginner level. So if you're looking for something a little more adventurous with a little more going on, then these 2 might be good for you. The first is Weir by Amy Christoffers for Berroco. Now, it has a high-low hem. You're working those pieces separately so you can change the length of the hem for the front and the back. And there's bracelet length sleeves. It has a wide V-neck, so you've got shoulder shaping going along with that neckline shaping, so that's what makes it a little more difficult than the other 3. And then the stitches are picked up for the sleeves, and they're worked from the shoulder to the cuff. Another option from Berroco is Parnell, and this one has some simple stripes as well. It's a drop shoulder. Front and back are worked separately, but you can see it's got a garter stitch hem. We've got some stripes going on. There is some neck and shoulder shaping. Now the shoulders are joined, and then stitches are picked up for the sleeves, and those are knit from the top down. So you can see there's a few different ways to work drop down shoulder sweaters. You can knit all the pieces separately and sew them together, or after you've seamed the front and the back shoulders together, you pick up stitches for the sleeves and work them directly from the body itself. Now, a step up from that drop shoulder construction is raglan sweater construction. If you've ever seen a baseball tee where they've got those lines running from the underarm to the neckline to separate the sleeves from the body, that's raglan shaping, and it's really commonly done in knitting as well. It's a very popular method in top-down sweaters, but raglans can also be made by knitting each of the pieces and seaming them together. But it is a step up from a drop shoulder, because with a drop shoulder, you just have those 2 rectangles and straight lines. With raglans, you've got to work some decreases to create that raglan line on the sleeves and on the body of the sweater, and then seam them up carefully to make sure they match. If you're feeling adventurous and want to give it a try, then these sweaters are a great place to start. This first recommendation comes from a viewer. Mary recommends the Autumn Breeze Pullover from Paintbox Yarns. Now, this uses chunky yarn, so it's going to be a quick knit. Just basic stitches, rib for the hem and sleeve cuffs, a stockinette stitch body, and it does have that raglan shaping, so you're working decreases to create that shape. And it's worked in pieces from the bottom up, and then you seam all of the pieces together. Then I have a few recommendations for free patterns from Yarnspirations. Their crew neck raglan sweater. Now this is worked in pieces with those raglan shaping lines, and then the pieces are seamed together. Very simple deep rib cuffs and hemline and neckline and just a simple stockinette body. Now, if you prefer a V-neck instead of a crew neck, then you'll also find one of those on Yarnspirations, their knit V-neck raglan sweater. Now, it's just like the previous pattern, worked in separate pieces with raglan shaping and seamed together. The only difference is the neckline. This one has a V-neck instead of a crew neck. And Lion brand also has a raglan sleeve pullover that you can check out. Like the other ones, the front, the back, and the sleeves are all worked separately, flat in pieces. This is just basic rib and stockinette stitch, and it has that raglan sleeve shaping. Now, those recommendations are all for basic, simple sweaters. If you want something with a little more interest, then check out the Raglan Pullover by Joanna Lowe. And this one's worked in just the same way, in pieces and seamed, but this introduces a second color. We've got some simple stripes across the body and then wider stripes along the shoulders. So if you want some color play along with that raglan shaping, this is a great choice for you. Now, these are just some of the beginner sweaters I found. If you have some recommendations for beginner sweaters that are knit in pieces and then sewn up, I would love to hear about it. Please leave me a comment, tell me about your sweaters, and if you're looking for another sweater idea, go down and read those comments and see what other knitters have to say. They always have great ideas. Now, if you're looking for even more beginner sweater ideas, I've put together a very short playlist for you with lots of ideas. Go check it out, and I'll see you in that next video.